Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited about today's DIYs. We are doing some Mother's Day gift DIYs. For the first project, I am using this gorgeous mug from Dollar Tree that says Mom's life is the best life, or Mom life is the best life. I also will be using a piece of a pool noodle and placing that down into the cup. I am not going to hot glue this down because I want the cup to be able to be used as a coffee mug. So to weight that pool noodle down, I'm using some of those glass beads that you can pick up at Dollar General. I've never seen them in my Dollar Tree before, but they may carry those there at Dollar Tree. I will also be using some gorgeous florals from Dollar Tree as well as some from Dollar General. Now these are just called garden bouquets, so I will use 2 bundles of those, some lavender. I am not sure where I got this. I may have picked this up at Walmart or Dollar General. And this one came from Dollar General for $1. You guys, I was so excited to find these beautiful mugs with the bicycles on it. My mother, every time we go to Dollar Tree, wanted one of these mugs with the bicycles on it, and she never could find it every time we went in there. So wouldn't you know, last week when I went in there without her, there were 2 different styled bicycle mugs, and they only had 2 in the whole store. So I scooped that blessing up, and I'm going to give both of these to her, but I thought that one would be super cute to decorate with a floral arrangement because she also loves florals. So if you could use any kind of mug that your mother likes and then just coordinate the flowers with the design that's on the mug. These turned out very beautiful with the purple and the yellow and the green that are already on the mug design print on the front. And I just placed those florals wherever I thought they looked nice until it was nice and full. For the leaf portion, I actually just tucked those into the top part of the mug and then folded the leaf over on the outside like it was coming outside of the top of the mug. And this is so beautiful. To take it to another little step, I'm going to add a bow using some white grosgrain ribbon from Dollar Tree, as well as this beautiful, it's almost like a sage green with the white vine on it from Dollar Tree. I just loop mine around. I don't measure the length of it. I just create the loops about the same size. I'm going to create about 3 loops on each side, kind of folding it over, going in opposite directions, and leave enough for 2 tails. Then I'll just set the white ribbon down on the table, and I'm just going to put something on there to hold it in place until I get my green ribbon together, and I will do that the exact same way, creating 3 loops on each side. Then I will place the green ribbon on top of the white, and then I'm going to pinch the center and kind of squeeze it really tightly and take a piece of floral wire, which you can find at Dollar Tree, to wrap around the center to get that nice and tight, and then I can twist that around. So I did decide to go ahead and wrap it around the front part of the ribbon a couple of times to make sure that it was going to stay in place. And I did leave that floral wire on there. I don't cut that off yet because I'm going to be adding this to a barbecue skewer. Once I have it fluffed out a little bit and I have my bow looking almost like I want it to cover up the center portion that has the floral wire, I just trimmed off the 2 outside edges of some of the green ribbon and then secured that in the middle with some hot glue to give it a nice finished look. I will fold that around and hot glue it on the back. And then I'm going to take a piece of a barbecue skewer out of my craft stash that I've already used the pointed tip on for another DIY. And this is just what was left over, and I'll be able to attach my beautiful bow to that. Before doing that, I will dovetail each one of the tails. And to secure it to this barbecue skewer, I will wrap my floral wire around it a couple of times and then also add some hot glue. Let that set up, and then I'll add a little bit more hot glue on top of what I've just twisted and cut that excess off. Then make sure you fluff your bow out nice and pretty, and then you can place it right into your floral arrangement. I love how this piece turned out. I think it is so beautiful, and I think my mom is really going to love this because she loves flowers so much. Let me know what you think of project number 1. For project number 2, I will be using this adorable rolling pin sign that I found at Dollar General for $1. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hanger and then the sticker and take some sanding paper or sand block from Dollar Tree and sand it down because it did have a few little rough edges on there. I'm using some Krylon Chalky Finish paint in Ultra Matte Classic White, I believe, and I gave this 2 coats and made sure that I also got those outside edges. Using some Waverly Antique Wax, I'm going to use a paintbrush and paint just the handles, and then I will take a dry paper towel and very lightly go over it to create some streaks to make it look like it is wood grain. I did that for both handles and made sure that I also painted those outside edges. Now that this piece is dry, I'm going to take my Cricut, and I made Mom's Kitchen. I know that not everyone has a Cricut, so I do have this as a free printable on my website, which is in my description box below, in this exact size, so you can go there and print that out, and you can use carbon paper or you can trace it out onto your project, but I understand that not everyone has a Cricut, so you do have that option. I found this very beautiful tissue paper. I'm not sure if you can really see on camera. It is like a silver blue. It is just gorgeous. I found this at Dollar Tree. I cut that down to the width that I want it to be on each side, and I am going to apply this using some Mod Podge. I made sure that I put a nice even coat of Mod Podge on the outside piece there, as well as the outside edges, so that I could fold that over. I gently placed the tissue paper on top, and now I am taking just a clean paintbrush that's been dipped in just plain water and very lightly going over the tissue paper to get out any wrinkles and to smooth that down. I did the other side the exact same way. I let this dry for a couple of hours, and then I cut off the excess and took 150 grit sandpaper, which you can find in a package from Dollar Tree, and went over all of those edges to give it a nice, clean, smooth finish. Now you could leave it as is, but I'm going to create a hanger using some jute rope and some ribbon and hot glue. And I chose to put my hanger on the back to the point where you can't see it when it's hanging up. So if you're giving this as a gift, they can choose to either set this up and lean it up against something or hang it on the wall. This piece turned out so beautiful. I just love the colors in that tissue paper. I love how this little project turned out. Let me know what you think of project number 2. For project number 3, we're going to be using that tissue paper again. Using this wood heart frame, picture frame from Dollar Tree, I removed the backing, and I will give the frame itself 2 coats of the same Krylon Chalky Finish paint that I did in project number 2. I also made sure that I painted those outside edges as well as the back of this piece, since it will be sitting up on that little stand, that little dowel that came with it. I wanted to make sure that the back was finished. I'm going to apply that same tissue paper using the same method I did in project number 2. Using Mod Podge, I did make sure that I got all of the outside edges because I want this beautiful paper to wrap around this entire piece. After I apply that on there, and then I will go in with that wet paintbrush, and it is just a very light-handed, not heavy-handed at all, going over this and pushing all of those wrinkles out and making sure that I get those outside edges as well. Now, I did let my piece set overnight so that that Mod Podge would completely dry before I go in and sand any of the extra tissue paper off. Again, using some 150 grit sandpaper, I went around the entire outside edge of this picture frame, as well as the inside portion where the heart is. I just poked a hole there and then just sanded that inside part. Using a piece, before I use the burlap, I did go over this with Mod Podge because it can be handled more. I wanted to make sure that that had a good seal on it and that that tissue paper was not going to come up from the frame. Now that it has dried, I let it set for a couple of hours. I took a piece of burlap fabric and the backing off of the picture frame, traced that out, and cut it out with my scissors. Now this burlap came from burlapfabric.com. I'm going to hot glue that onto the back part, or that little, it's like a poster board backing for this picture frame. And then I can place that back into the frame itself, push my tabs down, and then to give it a little something extra in the front, I'm using one of those metal corrugated hearts that came off the love sign from Dollar Tree at Valentine's Day. And I just applied that using hot glue. And this picture frame is finished, and it is so beautiful. I love how it turned out. And if my mother would like to place a picture in there, she can just pop that back part out, put whatever picture she likes in there. But either way, I think it turned out just beautiful. For project number 4, this is a very simple and easy project. I'm using this 5x7 frame from Dollar Tree that had the insert in the front. I'm going to trace the backing of the picture frame onto some regular poster board, cut that out, and again I used my Cricut that says "First my mom, forever my friend." Again, I have this as a free printable in my website, which is in my description box below, so that you can print this out in the exact font and size, and you can trace this onto your project. I used the piece that came inside the frame as a guide so that I would know where to apply my decal, and then I can just put everything back into the frame. This project was so easy, yet it turned out so beautiful and so elegant. I love how this turned out, and I just love that saying. Let me know what you think of project number 4. For project number 5, we're going to make this beautiful picture ladder using 4 of the 5-gallon paint stir sticks that you can pick up at your local home improvement store. Cut 2 of those down to 11.5 inches, and I just used my handsaw, and then I sanded those ends down nice and smooth. I'm going to be placing the ruler side on the inside, but actually it doesn't matter. It just depends on if you're going to stain it or paint it. Measuring from the top part of the handle down 3.5 inches, I made a mark on each one of the sticks, and then measuring from the bottom portion up 7.25 inches, I made a mark on both of those. Those are going to be our side pieces for our ladder. Taking the 11.5 inch pieces that I cut down using Gorilla Wood Glue and hot glue, I'm going to attach those where I've already placed those marks. Now, I did place that bottom one incorrectly. You do not want to place it like I'm placing here. I am putting it at the top, at the bottom part of that mark. You actually want the bottom part of that piece to be at the top of that mark, and I'll show you in just a minute. Then I'm going to repeat that process on the other side to attach the other side rail for the ladder. I did make sure that I let my Gorilla Wood Glue set up pretty good before I went in and painted it. After I set those pieces down, I'll go in and take a paper towel and wipe any of the excess glue off so that when I paint it, everything will be nice and clean. I took 80 grit sandpaper, and because I wanted to round those ends off, I didn't want them to be perfectly squared. I just took the sandpaper and rounded each one of the ends on this entire ladder, on those 2 outside rails. Then using the Krylon chalk paint, I gave this 2 coats of paint. And this is when I realized that I placed my bottom piece too far down. So I just pulled that up, and I'm going to take the Gorilla Wood Glue and hot glue and place it again at the top. So you want the bottom part of that rail to be at the top part of your marking, if that makes sense. Then I will take some sandpaper and sand down nice and smooth where I had to pull that up and touch that up with my paint. Now that everything has dried, I'm going to make some markings. Now the left-hand side of the ladder is the top part of the ladder. I measured over 2 7/8 of an inch from each side and made a mark. And then I measured 5/8 of an inch from the bottom part of those front rails. And then I'll erase the previous mark that I made. I just wanted to make sure everything was 2 7/8 inches over from the outside, and then 5/8 of an inch up. So all the markings would be identical and everything would line up when we put this piece together. I took my power drill and just drilled the holes in all of the marks that I just made. And then we'll set that to the side for just a moment, and we're going to start working on the frames. I'm using 2 of these wood frames that I found at Walmart. They were less than $1 a piece. And I'll remove all the backing and pull the tabs up so that I can stain these. I am using Waverly Antique Wax and applying it with a brush, and then just taking a lint-free cloth, or you can use a paper towel or whatever you like, and just kind of smear that stain in and kind of lift it up to really bring out that wood grain. I also made sure that I got the inside edge of the frame, the outside, and the back, so both of these will be entirely stained. Make sure that your wax has set up. Then I'm going to flip the frame over and just use a piece of poster board because it came with just that thin little piece of paper in there. I traced that out and I'm cutting it a little bit larger than the inside so that it will sit nice and flush on the back part where that indentation is, where you can place your pictures. And I will do the exact same thing for the other side. Now, one of my little pieces, my little tabs popped out, so I just put a little bit of hot glue in there and pushed it back into place, kind of making sure that it was up so that I would be able to fold that over once I place my pictures in. At the top part of the frame, I am measuring 1.5 inches from each outside edge and then 1/2 of an inch from the top. So you'll have 2 markings, 1.5 inch from each outside edge and 1/2 of an inch from the top. Then I will just drill my holes, and I did make sure I placed some wood under there so I would not drill into my table. Using the poster board pieces that we've already traced out, I printed off these beautiful photos just offline. You can put any kind of family photo or whatever picture you like in there, but my mother loves flowers, and I figured she could put whatever pictures she would like in there. So I'm just going to put these in this particular piece. I used just regular school Elmer's glue stick and placed these down to the poster board, and then I could just put them right back into the frame. Once you have your pictures in place, now you can assemble them to the ladder, and I will be using some jute rope, and I'm going to flip it over. So now we're looking at the back side of the ladder, and I'll flip my picture frames over where the holes are at the left-hand side of your screen so that I can line everything up and make sure that everything's going to hang evenly. Just feed that jute string through the hole and then of the ladder, and then back up through your frame. And then I'm going to tie a knot once I feed that through and I get it to the correct length that I want it to be. After I tie my knot, I will use a little bit of hot glue to hold that knot in place, cut that excess jute rope off, and then I'll push the knot to the back part of the hole on the ladder. And I will repeat that for the other 3 places that we need to create the hangers for. And as I'm going along, I make sure that I keep the frame the same distance for each of these jute strings so that everything will hang nice and even. After you get that in place, this project is finished. I think it turned out so beautiful, and it cost very little money. I just love how this picture ladder turned out. Let me know what you guys think. You guys, if you have a favorite, I would love to know which one is your favorite. Please let me know in the comments down below. And all of you beautiful mothers out there, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. See you guys next time.